Free Energy Now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, August 21st, 2014. We interrupt this program to bring a post-production announcement. This interview I did on the Rense Radio Network was one of the most exciting yet, though more in the realm of conventional energy than we typically cover. That said, within the conventional world, it would be considered a major breakthrough, but not a breaking of any laws of physics, merely a case of I wish I had thought of that first. It's a subject that has received quite a bit of mainstream coverage recently. Ironically, despite all this coverage, I was the first to actually ask the inventor for an interview. Unfortunately, one of his financiers got very upset with him because they want all their announcements to go through press releases after review by certain key persons. So he's asked me to remove mention of the interview from our pages and to not post the interview recording. We now return to the show. But first, let's do our This Week in Free Energy News recap. And actually, that story I just mentioned is our lead story for this week, and I would classify it as more conventional than what we typically cover outside the box, because this is not defying any laws of physics as we know them. It is certainly pushing the envelope in the conventional world, but no one's throwing tomatoes from the scientific community. They're all standing up and clapping. So it is a great breakthrough, and we are very honored to have Lee on as our guest. But first, in the exotic sector, I posted a link in our blog to a bunch of cool links that John Cools from the UK has sent me, including Over Unity Engine, Electric World Record, NASA's EM Drive, Ion Propulsion, AI Dangers, Sky Wind Turbine, Illuminati Electric Car, Gravity Battery, Hemp nanosheets versus graphene, and that's actually today's story. And then in other news, we've got another story from Mark Goldis over at ASOP, another fuel-free piston engine design by Ken Round. Uses the same thermodynamic cycle as the first engine, but much simpler mechanism or mechanical configuration. The new design is less expensive, easier to build, fewer moving parts. This engine has just 4 cylinders. The original one had 10. Ken Round is an associate of mine early on when we started this whole news service. He was one of my first advisors. Used to work with the late Eugene Malov. So he's a serious and very good inventor, highly qualified, and also Mark Goldis is out to help the planet. There are some people posting fairly negative comments, and I don't think those are warranted, so just want to mention that. Got another story from E-Media. That's Aaron Murakami and Peter Lindemann's news source, The Real History of Ed Gray Motor, Part 2. They did Part 1 about a year ago. Mark McKay's second installment of accurate historical information regarding the Ed Gray technologies. He's found some of the old audio tapes in his attic, etc. Posted yesterday a link to a little blurb of Peter Payne's perpetuator for an overbalanced wheel. He says this simple mechanism or device is sufficient to lift or manipulate weights within an overbalanced wheel and bring order to their distribution. Just basically posted as food for thought. No validation on that one yet. He hasn't built one yet. It's just basically he spent 40,000 hours in the pursuit, so I thought, heck, you know, let you guys know about what he's come up with. Off topic of energy, but of interest to us generally, Directed Energy Warfare Office versus We the People, I added. I was called actually by a military whistleblower the other day who was part of an energy scouting program to try and find renewable energy solutions that would enable a fuel-free military. His remark was that while they ostensibly were looking for such solutions, the unofficial comments between high-ranking officers was that they already have such technologies. That's kind of interesting. And then another story, government weather manipulation exposed. Alex Jones gives a brief fire hydrant overview of the evidence with stacks of papers, articles, patents, reviews from mainstream sources, so you can look them up yourselves and see that this is for real. And then they also posted an excellent video, Proof Illegal Aliens Have It Better Than You. It's a stunning piece about the comparison between how illegal aliens are treated compared to U.S. citizens. Wanted to mention my guest from last Tuesday on this show was Mike Rigby. It was an amazing interview. I really enjoyed that. You want to listen to it. His specialty is near-death experiences, but we dove pretty deep into the subject and had some other fun banter back and forth, so that was enjoyable as well. Speaking of religious subjects, off the topic from energy, I have started my Sterling Sunday School, Graduate Studies for the Remnant, nominally weekly broadcast along spiritual lines to help the awakening that seems to be prerequisite to the emergence of exotic free energy technologies, which are all about freedom. As long as we as a society deserve tyranny, we impede their arrival. Intro and first lesson on love, now available. Next Tuesday's guest is going to be my dad, David W. Allen, of the Allen Variants, which is going to be this topic of IEEE's magazine in 2016, where they're going to do an entire article or entire feature article, not just article, the whole issue is going to be about the Allen Variants and the impact it's had in the world of international timekeeping and telecommunications. It is at the base of timekeeping. It was his master's thesis, and he just finished writing a book, It's About Time. He received the Time Lord Award in Switzerland, was it? Scotland, a couple of years ago, honoring his role in the international timekeeping community. So we're going to talk to him about his book and about his Allen Variants. And now, talking about conventional energy, wind farms paid record sums to not produce electricity. Windy weather and low demand for electricity in the UK led to wind farm owners being paid a record amount to switch off their turbines. Imagine that. And finally, we are coming to our headline story for today. Supercapacitors made from hemp that perform as well or even better than graphene, but which are much cheaper.
The JetPrince program can be yours to listen to anytime, anywhere, whenever you want to hear it. For pennies a day, our subscribers can download any of Jeff's thousands of programs featuring a treasury of newsmakers, researchers, eyewitnesses, and incredible subjects, all in MP3 commercial-free, crystal-clear 56-bit digital sound, and take these often unforgettable programs with them wherever they go. As a subscriber, you can also listen live at airtime, online, anywhere in the world, or browse through our archives of over 6,000 hours of legendary broadcasts. Subscribe now by taking the link at the top of Rense.com and enrich your mind with the most unique panorama of vital information and the best independent, honest journalism in radio. Look for the Subscribe Now link on Rense.com and give yourself the knowledge you need for these unprecedented times.
Presently, the #1 technology in our top 5 exotic free energy technologies listing at top5energy.com is what we call hydroxy technology, in which onboard electrolysis creates oxygen and hydrogen. Unseparated, it's also called Brown's gas, or HHO. By then adding this to the fuel, the mileage and horsepower of an engine can be significantly improved while reducing emissions. One of the reasons for this is that Brown's gas breaks down the larger chain fuel molecules so they can be utilized and not exhausted, unburned. There are many companies worldwide that are making and selling these hydroxy systems. We've compiled a list for you at besthydroxytechnologies.com. When you find one you like, be sure to tell them that Sterling Allen of PES referred you. Again, that's besthydroxytechnologies.com.
You've been listening to Free Energy Now, brought to you by PES, Pure Energy Systems. You may access past archives and upcoming show info at freeenergynow.net and join us for our daily news at freeenergynews.com. We invite you to see our directory of energy technologies at peswiki.com. That's peswiki.com. PES, the Pure Energy Systems Information Network.
Announcements to go through press releases after review by certain key persons. So he's asked me to remove mention of the interview from our pages and to not post the interview recording. We now return to the show. But first, let's do our This Week in Free Energy News recap.
Without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, August 21st, 2014. We interrupt this program to bring a post-production announcement. This interview I did on the Rense Radio Network was one of the most exciting yet, though more in the realm of conventional energy than we typically cover. That said, within the conventional world, it would be considered a major breakthrough.
Free Energy Now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run.
But not a breaking of any laws of physics, merely a case of I wish I had thought of that first. It's a subject that has received quite a bit of mainstream coverage recently. Ironically, despite all this coverage, I was the first to actually ask the inventor for an interview. Unfortunately, one of his financiers got very upset with him because they want all the